Loud. Share the screen. Okay, everybody, good afternoon and welcome to this week's training. We're going to be talking about one very important topic, but before I do that, I want to make sure that you guys just recap last week. Last week, we really made a focus on transitions and tie downs. The transitions are imperative to making sure that your presentation doesn't feel like it's too long, right? Transitions make it where it's actually a conversation. It anticipates what's coming next. So much can be accomplished by having some great transitions through your presentation. The other piece is the tie downs, right? Having some great tie downs helps you get your DM or decision maker to start aligning with small micro commitments, right? One of the things that we tasked you all to do over the week last week was to make sure that when you're going through your presentation, you're counting how many yeses you're getting throughout your presentation. Did I get any? Did I get 7, 10? You want to start to make sure you're being aware of what am I doing well and what could be better, right? And the other thing too is, with the tie downs, here's what I love most about last week's training is that tie downs, instead of anticipating or assuming that they're going to say at the end, I mean, like closing becomes a process, not just a one-time event at the end of the presentation. But by getting those micro yeses throughout the presentation, you've already been closing throughout the presentation. You're not closing at the end. It's already been closing. And so by getting them to say yes, human nature, we talked about this, human nature aligns with the consistency principle, right? Meaning that their behavior is going to align with previous commitments that they had. So you want to make sure that you're not forgetting your transitions and tie downs. This week, I'm super excited to really dive into our Present to Close series. We're talking about customizing the benefits fact sheet now. So now that you've got the bare bones presentation with the transitions and tie downs, now let's talk about how we can utilize the benefits fact sheet to customize our presentation to provide the business owner with more reasons as to why they need to go with us. So to start us off, guys, look, here's a couple of reasons why we want to use the benefits fact sheet. Number one, it gives us information about the company and ensures that they will qualify. That's a hands down basic piece of information that we do this for, right? The next thing is it's an opportunity for you to praise what they have, right? Great time to build rapport, John. Hey, I love what you currently have to offer. What we offer is pretty unique, and we're a lot more cost effective than the other guys. It also gives us information on how to fill their current benefit package, right? What gaps do they have? It helps us also set up the enrollment. Something that I loved about the benefits fact sheet is it helps me understand what does that business look like as far as operations. Do they have break times, which we'll cover here throughout the presentation or throughout this training, what that looks like. But it also, number two, it gives you an opportunity to overcome objections early on, right? Now that's a big one, right? How do we get that, which is next week's training, by the way. Next week's training, we're going to be talking about how to be able to handle objections through the presentation instead of only waiting for them at the end. So here's what I'm going to do, right? We talked about transitions and tie downs, how we're going to help the business owner align with saying yes at the end because they've been saying yes all the way throughout. This week, we're going to be saying, okay, here's how we're going to isolate the need. Here's how we're going to isolate the gaps. And how do we bring those areas of that have gaps in it back into the presentation? So let's talk about it, right? So here's the benefits fact sheet, right? You've got your contact name, your company name, the years it was established, everything else, okay? So I'm going to just give you guys a little breakdown of what that looks like and the why behind each section. Number one, we need to know who needs to be involved. Knowing how many employees work 28 hours per week, it's going to help us know how to set up the enrollment, right? What's the size of the business, right? And that way you can then set this up correctly. Hold on, I'm trying to let some people in through all right. The next one here, it gives us areas of opportunity to close on, right? This is where I start to find where I can close and bring back the emphasis throughout my presentation. This is where we can also really fill in the gap. No one offers what we offer. So just getting a better understanding of what they have just to be able to segue back into the presentation is going to be super important, right? Knowing this is critical. And then, of course, again, does anyone else need to sit in on this meeting? If they've got somebody that does payroll in-house, it wouldn't hurt to also have them in a meeting. Not saying you need them to have it, but also knowing that they know how this works is very beneficial. All right, give me a second here, just letting more people through. So that's the breakdown of the benefits fact sheet. Let's dive right in. So first and foremost, this is going to give you the basic company name, contact person, and the year it was established. Okay, so here's where it all gets better. The basic information that you need to have is: are you the only decision maker for benefits? Please be sure you're confirming this during the benefits fact sheet. This is going to be important, right? You want to make sure that you have the right DM. If there's multiple DMs, ask to sit down with all of them. Schedule an appointment if it's not possible to get them to sit down. If you're finding yourself not presenting to the right person, often you need to get an answer from someone else. Check your pack calls, right? If you're getting into a lot of these presentations where you're not meeting with the right person, see what you're saying, right? Who's your HR manager or who handles your benefits? These are things that potentially put you in a position to present to the wrong person in the first place. So be sure that you're asking for the business, for the owner, right? The owner is going to be the critical one. The next piece right here, this segment of the benefits fact sheet, is where we find out that they've got to have at least 5 employees that work 28 hours or more a week and have been employed for 6 months at least. The employee's got to be W-2, and the DMs can count as an employee as well if they're on payroll. Here's a list of businesses that, of course, qualify to do business with us, but they've got to have a 1-year approval here, right? They've got to be with the business for the employees should have been employed there for 1 year. So just something for you guys to take a look at, get you guys acquainted. So if I know I'm walking into one of these businesses, making sure that they've got to be in the business for 1 year. Now, for this particular segment of the benefits fact sheet, okay, this is kind of throwing me off here. I'm having to let people in. Brian, I don't know if you can go in and let people in as I go. Is it? Okay, so a couple of things here that I'd love to add is. Okay. Elshay's coming in. What's up, Elshay? Okay. So a couple of things that I'd love to add during this part of the benefits fact sheet is, number one, how many employees are in the field, right? So if I know that you've got X amount of employees, especially if it's a construction company, right? If I know it's a construction company, or I know where 80% of their workforce is in the field, it just helps me to understand how many people work in the field. And then the next question is, how many people work in the office right now? And then how many employees are working from home? Again, this is one where we never know. We just need to know these bits and pieces of information, because I've had enrollments in the past where I've closed them because they allowed us to set up the enrollment first by enrolling the employees in the office. Let's get the enrollment taken care of. We'll get started with the ones in the office first. That way they're not having to delay the decision making because they want to be able to put it together where the field employees are seen first. We can get an enrollment date just to see the employees in the office first. Then we can work out the kinks later with it when it comes to the employees in the field. So super cool questions to ask there. The next one is field service industries. You got to understand these industry types is plumbing, heating and air, electric, landscape, and construction, right? Here's something that you can ask during these particular industry presentations when you're presenting to these ones is, how many employees work in the office? How many of the employees work in the field? Is there any certain day of the week where everyone comes in, right? That's another question you want to ask during the benefits fact sheet before you go to the presentation. Because again, I'm trying to get my enrollment to set up itself, right? Business owners don't buy into products, they buy into process. So by asking some additional questions like this, I can then let them know and break it down how the enrollment could be structured and set up. The other one is, do they have any safety meetings? When is that safety meeting? Assume that they have a safety meeting. If it's a field service industry, they have these types of meetings in place. Asking when those are, or when the next one is before going into the presentation, is going to help you set up the enrollment at the end. Manufacturing, these are just a couple of industry types to be aware of: steel company, warehouse, and fabrication companies. A couple of other questions you want to ask during the benefits fact sheet is, do they have different shifts? What are the different shift times? Okay. Part of this is the reason why you want to ask these questions is, number one, not only is it going to help you set up the enrollment, but it's going to help you understand the industry dynamic. We are enrollment specialists as well. We know how to set up an enrollment based on industry type. By knowing that they have different shifts, we can suggest processes that are going to work, right? The next one is safety meetings, same thing, right? So manufacturing, fabrication, we just talked about it, right? Steel companies, warehouses, fabrications. These are questions you want to ask during those types. That way you can set up the enrollment during that time. Doctor's offices, right? Dentist offices, physical therapy, vet clinics. Typically, you want to be able to find out what day you can perform a polling. Again, medical offices are used to the terminology of a lunch and learn. So if you're presenting to a doctor's office or a medical facility, lunch and learns are common. they will be more than happy to set up a time for you to come in and talk to their employees during that time. So asking when they go in and when do they take lunch is another good question. The next industry types is auto body shops, things that do oil change, tire shops, car repair, auto wrecker, paint, and body shops. Okay. With these particular industries, of course, they've got a 1 year eligibility rule, but finding out what day to come in is typically mid morning or lunch or sometime in mid afternoon. Early mornings are pretty tough with these types of industries, and then try to stay away from late afternoons again, because a lot of people, here's what's happening. Early in the morning, people are dropping off their cars. Later in the afternoon, people are picking up their cars. So typically these guys take about, that mid-morning, that 10:30, 11:30 lunch or middle afternoon, great opportunities to set up the enrollment. Okay. Cities, counties, states, car dealerships, hospitals, and school systems, these are a little bit larger, right? So you want to find out how many departments they have, right? A couple of questions, guys. When you start to implement it, you'll definitely see it. So the other thing too is you want to make sure that you know that there's different shifts, right? I know some of us, I think they have, sheriff, the sheriff department during, if we close on a county, knowing the sheriff department shifts, a lot of great things. But again, it's knowing that these business types or industry types are built up of these types of dynamics, which will help you set up the enrollment and have the confidence to close them. So a couple of things here that I want to emphasize is whenever you're dealing with objections, right, or when you're dealing with this part, these are just things that you're going to hear and listen for them, right? We just give them money for it. These are, our health insurance just went up. The employees complain about the cost of their health insurance. The deductible is too high. Be listening for these things while you're covering these particular segments. So, with the high deductible, max out of pocket, this is one that I'm going to drive home heavily, and I'll show you here in a minute how, right? So when I went through the benefits fact sheet, I've identified that they've got a $5,000 deductible and an $8,000 max out of pocket, okay? And I'm sure, listen, most people don't have this kind of money laying around to pay for a deductible or that max out of pocket cost. High deductibles or max out of pocket. Our living benefits are designed to pay directly to the employee to help them afford the high cost of deductibles or other out-of-pocket expenses. So where does that work? During our critical illness, right? During our critical illness policy. So Brian, in order to help families survive financially during this difficult time, we can help provide financial protection for these critical illnesses as well as cancer by offering a lump sum benefit that pays cash from $10,000 to $50,000 directly to your employees during their time of need. As you can see, our lowest benefit would cover your max out of pocket of $8,000 and provide additional funding to use wherever is needed. I'm sure that you can agree, or we can agree, that taking the financial pressure off an employee suffering a critical illness would be very, very beneficial, right? So just like that, guys, I went ahead and covered the material on the content or within the slide, but I did not forget to address how, as you can see, our lowest benefit would cover your max out of pocket, right? That's putting in perspective that they currently have a gap in what they're offering because they don't have anything to help the employee pay for this. Let me go ahead and show you, and then I'm going to tie it down right there at the end, and I'm going to say, I'm sure we can agree that taking the financial pressure off of an employee suffering a critical illness such as this would be considered a great benefit. So I cover the material, transition. First, I'm going to transition into it, which is, of course, talking about heart disease being the #1 killer worldwide and stroke ranking second. That's my transition. I talk about the logic, and then we talk about how we're going to help these people. And then I bring in the benefits fact sheet. There was a need, and here it is. And then get them to tie it down afterwards. I'm sure we can agree that taking the financial pressure off an employee suffering a critical illness would be very beneficial, right? So this was the part where, just like in the benefits fact sheet, health insurance, right? I identified the need, okay? I utilized this slide to pair it with that need, and I got them to see how the benefits fact sheet and what we offer bring a lot of value to the table. Next up, supplemental benefits, right? A couple of things you're going to hear is you're going to see them. They only have dental and vision. We have short-term and long-term disability. We don't have any supplemental benefits. So a couple of things here when you're thinking about this is this will be great value to employees who otherwise have to pay additional expenses out of pocket, right? That's what you have to understand is that they don't offer anything as far as supplemental benefits, these employees are going to have to pay everything out of pocket, right? It's just, there's a big need there. So what we do in this case, how we bring that part up, right? So again, we've identified this business doesn't have any benefits. What slide is great for this? Right here, right? I'm using this as an example of where I would use the fact that they don't offer any supplemental benefits here for this segment. So since 1 out of every 3 people in the US are going to be affected by cancer, it's definitely obvious that many of your employees may have to deal with this expense of this disease during their lifetime and many during their working years. Wouldn't you agree? Think about that. Look at that tie down right there. Wouldn't you agree? Boom, tie down. So I know you stated that you currently have no supplemental benefits through the workplace. So let me go ahead and show you how we would address that need real quick. We can offer a policy with no lifetime maximum that pays the employee at the moment they're diagnosed with cancer. That's going to help with insurance deductibles and even that lost time at work. Our policies are going to include a benefit that's payable each time an employee receives chemotherapy, radiation treatments, each day they even spend in the hospital as well as they reimburse the employee for transportation to a cancer treatment center of their choosing, right? So right there, boom, I hit it with the transition and the tie down, talked about where the benefits fact sheet brought up a need or a gap in their coverage. I addressed it, and then I ended it right there, boom, with what we do to fill in that need, right? The next one here is if you've got a business that has multiple supplement benefits. So our benefits are unique. That's what I'm driving home here. Okay, I'm driving home that regardless of whatever you offer, okay, they could have a lot. It doesn't matter. We can still come in and help because our benefits are so unique and generally they're more affordable than other options. So, Brian, before I describe how we do that, I want to show you some ways in which we're different from other voluntary benefit companies, right? Think about that this way. This is where if I know that I'm presenting to a business that has a lot of or that already has carriers, right? This is the slide that I'm driving home the most. How we are different. Number one, it's going to gain buy-in. And number two, it's going to prepare them for how we are different, even with multiple providers. In this particular, so let's say you've got a presentation. I'm giving you scenarios of different businesses you're going to come in contact with. So the last one, they've got a lot of carriers, drive home how we're different. This one has low participation supplemental benefits. So they carry supplemental benefits, but there's low participation. The process in which we administrate our enrollment produces higher participation. That's what makes us different, right? So whenever I'm going into or handling a business that has multiple providers and know that they have a low level of participation, I'm driving home the fact that what gets us the results compared to others is the way that we administrate it. We add the human element to the business. We have an educational needs-based approach, right? And we have a relationship-based intention. Like we're going in, we're building rapport, we're letting them know exactly what we're asking them the right questions, our worksite 180. That is what makes us different. And the area that I'm driving home the most is right here, right? We offer protection with needs. So it gives a full recap of how the process is going to look like, right? It's seamless, it's easy, it's efficient, and it gears towards 100% participation. That's what we want to help. If I have a business that I'm presenting to that I see that has providers or other companies and they have low levels of participation, that's something I'm going to drive home. Now, John, before I get into how it works slide, one of the things that I want to make sure we drive back on where the gap is right now you've got these providers and they're not really getting the participation that you should be getting. So here's how we're different and why we're going to get the result. Number one, our process is seamless, it's easy, it's efficient, and it's geared towards 100% participation because we're going to meet with each employee for a few minutes. We're going to provide them each with those 2 introductory offers that we talked about, complete the needs analysis, and then offer protection for those that have needs. So what I'm doing here is I'm driving home how we're going to be getting the result compared to the benefit providers that they have now. Again, not trying to replace them, but letting them know that our process is result driven. Now, in the group life insurance part, if I'm going over this segment, right, you're going to need to look out for a couple of things, right? So a couple of things you're going to run into is they pay for their life insurance. You're going to hear that they can't take it with them or it terminates, right? I'm looking for these things. If it terminates, it completely goes away once the employee retires or leaves. If it converts, the policy will convert from term to whole life, which means an increase in premium. If it reduces, the face amount decreases over a specific time frame. So whenever they do take it, they convert it. As they get older, the policy coverage can be cut in half. I mean, there's just these different policy types. So one thing you want to be able to drive home here is this particular segment over here is if I hear a benefit package that they have that converts, this is how I'm driving home this part of it. Now, John or hey, Brian, unlike other group life products offered at work that goes up in price, like the one you currently offer, right? Our policy is going to cover your employee until the age of 100 with the option to be paid off at 65. If it terminates, now, Brian, unlike other group life products offered at work, like what you currently have that terminates altogether, our policy is going to stay with them and cover them until the age of 100, but it's going to be able to have the option to be paid off at 65. So as you can see, because I found out that their policy terminates, converts, or reduces, I've got to keep an eye out for that, and I'm driving it home on this slide to let them know how we can fill the gap. Now, a couple of things here. One of the things that I love is if they've got life insurance already. Okay, follow me on this. If they've got life insurance already, I drive home this particular one. If they offer like let's say a $15,000 policy. Now, Brian, I'm sure you would agree that the majority of Americans would prefer to get coverage through their employer rather than on an individual basis, right? So let's answer this question. Put yourself in the position of your average employee. If your average employee were to pass away, would they have enough permanent life insurance to cover their final expenses? Yes or no? They're going to say, yes, we offer 15. Okay, great. So would that same $15,000 cover income replacement? And pause. They're clearly going to say, no, it wouldn't, right? You're going to need to make sure that they're offering life insurance. It's $15,000. I'm bringing it back. But I'm then following it up with this slide and saying, okay, that's great, but would it cover income? Okay, awesome. Now let me go ahead and show you how we're going to fill those needs right there, right? So the way that I broke this training down was designed to just go through the benefits fact sheet, okay? And each segment identifying where the need is, and then I demonstrated to you where in the presentation you can handle that. So for this previous one, I mentioned earlier, this one during the life insurance side, I'm looking for, does it terminate, does it convert, or does it reduce? Once I've identified whether it reduces, terminates, or convert, or they have life insurance, this is where I handle the instance where you've got a company that already offers life insurance, right? Let's say, oh, well, we offer all of our guys $25,000. Okay, amazing. Okay, would that same amount cover the income? Would that same amount cover the mortgage? Things of that nature. If I've got a company that offers life insurance, but it converts, here's how I'm approaching it during the presentation is now, Brian, unlike other group life products offered at work that go in price, like the one you're currently offering, our policy is coverage that remains in force until 100 years of age with the option to be paid off at 65. So what I'm doing there is because I found out this business had a policy that converts, I'm approaching this particular one by bringing in the need that they identified during the benefits fact sheet. A couple of other questions you can ask. So again, I'm at the very bottom of the benefits fact sheet now, just talking a little bit about payroll. How often are you paid, right? Weekly, biweekly, semi-monthly. And then of course, this is a great opportunity for you to let the business owner ask them, hey, can you please introduce me to your payroll person when we finish up, right? Getting that connection with the business payroll admin is going to help you tremendously when dropping off deductions and getting everything taken care of on the back end. So let's talk about some key takeaways, guys. The benefits fact sheet is designed for you to customize your presentation according to what the benefits fact sheet is providing you that we need to tackle. I want to encourage you to ask additional questions to know where to fill in those current gaps. All right. And then lastly, use the information you gather in your presentation so you can explain how you're going to service them on the back end. Okay. So guys, thank you so much for today. I think the goal is next week, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some objections, right? So now that we've talked about number one, we talked about transitions and tie downs. We talked about bringing the benefits fact sheet throughout your presentation once you've found out where to address it. Here are the gaps that you find in the benefits fact sheet. Here's where you need to address it. Next week, we're going to be talking about objection handling, and it's going to be fun. We're going to role play, get some repetitions down, get you guys acquainted with what to say and how to say it. Well, not just what to say, but get better at doing the how to say it, right? Super, super important. And then to end it and tie it all down, we're going to talk about going over the paperwork and even setting up an enrollment the right way. So, guys, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Monday, and let's get out there and kill it this week. Bye, everyone.